Wow, that was almost normal level of sound. Anyway, good afternoon and welcome back. We are here again with you, and this is really a special edition because
it's my last show.
Right. Unfortunately, as you know, Arnie joined the Peace Corps months ago, and he's down to Bolivia trying to save the raccoons. So
groundhogs.
Right. So to redeem his past. So we are not. We haven't had Arnie in a long time, but now we are losing Randy also.
Well, you got to work. You got to have a job. I couldn't really set my own schedule, so yeah, I'm going to be working Saturdays.
Thanks to FDA, he needed to get a job because his former job disappeared. Thanks to the...
Oh, now see, and you always think about these things when it's too late. You like those old 50s tunes, you know. I should have gotten a little clip of do get a job. I should have found a clip of that. Oh, well. Too late now.
Well, anyway, so thanks to the great activity of such a... well, let's not use
upstanding
the right
citizens.
Organization, yeah.
Upstanding pillars of the community.
Yeah. So he had to get another job. So, and they, of course, they changed the schedule. So now he cannot be on a show because he's working on Saturday. Unless we have some special event or holidays, and then maybe he can be. But other than that, he can't. So we're changing what's happening in the show in the sense that the co-host is now going to be Barbara Hartwell starting next Saturday. And so we're not going to have Randy except, as I said, on very unusual circumstances when he can be around during the show. So, and that's thanks to our government. All right. And that's with this show is going to, this week show is going to go over quite a few evil doing of our government, more and more. And they don't necessarily affect us directly, but they show the same pattern being used in everything over and over. So that's...
And before we get going, I want to thank everybody for listening to OrionTalkRadio.com and Micro 1650 in Tonawanda, New York, the big shot of the milliwatt. That may be the last time I get to say that. And everybody listening on the Shoutcast stream, everybody listening on Spreaker.com, and everybody listening on TalkSuperstation.com.
Yes, and that's live.
That's right.
At the same time that we are transmitting on Orion. So... And, you know, it is not a happy thing that we have to rearrange things because, well, anyway, that's unless people start screaming and putting an end to the abuses of our government, things are going to continue this way and they're actually going to get worse. And that's what we're going to discuss this time. My plan was to keep up on the story because some locations are still discussing Aaron Swartz. You know how the public interest disappears so fast and change in terms so fast that I thought, well, maybe Aaron Swartz's situation is such a disgrace, it's such a tragedy, such a waste of a beautiful mind. It's awful. So maybe people will talk about it longer. So I went back to Democracy Now website to see what else they had to say, because earlier in the week I've seen an article that was discussing him again and was saying how some of his friends were discussing how the prosecuting attorneys and just the courts were so vicious against him and absolutely horrible. No excuse to be that extreme in handling him. Really, no excuse in that kind of behavior. It was awful. A disgrace that drove him crazy, just drove him to suicide. That should never happen. But he did. And I thought maybe before starting today's show, I will go back to that website and maybe read more or refresh my memory of what exactly they said, which is basically an abuse mistreatment. I mean, a serial killer probably is not going to be treated that harshly. They give him all excuses, but not something...
Well, unless you kill Count Chocula. If you kill Count Chocula, then you're the kind of serial killer they're after.
Yeah, but it's not funny. It's really a serious thing, okay? It's really disgusting. Well, we started the Count Chocula joke when they started calling me a killer and that I was a serial killer because I was freeing people from chemo radiation, and the patient did live and did well as long as they stay away from chemo radiation. But they called me the serial killer, so we made the joke of Count Chocula. But anyway, so I went back to Democracy Now!, and all of a sudden nobody's talking about nothing. There is no even a picture inside of Aaron Schwartz. So, but accidentally, I came across to another article, and it was talking about the investigation, quote, done by the government about tortures of prisoners. And apparently there is this individual, a CIA, by the name of John Kiriakou, and I don't know if any of you has read or listened to his interview or listened to check the story, but he is CIA, employed by the CIA. And they said, he's the first person going to prison for the torture issue. Okay, well, okay, so the
not for torturing.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Let me get to it.
Okay. I'll shut up.
But that's what they are saying. Okay, it's the first conviction connected with the torturing of prisoners. Okay, so you think, okay, maybe the government is doing something, and then you start reading the story and listening to testimony. He is a whistleblower, anti-torture advocate, and a whistleblower exposing who did the torturing. He did not. He was against it. It was in the CIA. They offered him, and he refused to participate to that, to those activities of the CIA. He refused, and then he found out that what was going on, and he tried to expose it, and he tried to report it. He was interviewed by the media, and in the interview said, I just have a few facts, but there is somebody else that can give you more information. He gave the media the name of this guy that was not at all a secret agent, that was not involved in covert operation, none of that. It was just actually listed as a contractor for the CIA, but he was not involved into any secret activity. Well, so what they did is you gave that information, secret information, to the press, so they accuse him of violating what they call an Identity Protection Act. That means you cannot reveal the identity of agents that are in covert operation because you put their life in jeopardy, which makes sense. They're spies, and they are usually in enemy countries. So if you really reveal their names, they get killed. But they accused him of violating the oath that he had when he joined the CIA and violating this Identity Protection Act, which he didn't, because the person was not involved in any covert operation, officially wasn't even employed by the CIA, although that's what the CIA does. We can have Barbara discuss that. Does that and makes them appear like they are just hired as consultant or hired as help, as independent individual, not employed by the CIA. And she can give you more detail. We'll give the microphone to her in a minute. But so basically they're accused of something that he wasn't guilty of. He was not involved in the torture. He was involved in the anti-torture movement. And he's the only one that is going to prison. He's going to prison. They had the interview this week, and it's the last interview. Okay, we got a break, and after the break, we'll have Barbara come in and discuss this issue.
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
Okay, we are back from the break. And before the break, I was talking about this John Kiriakou case and the fact that he's the only one so far that is going to jail on the issue of torture of prisoners, of suspected terrorists and other individual dangerous to our government, apparently. And he's accused. He's not somebody that actually did the torture. He's not somebody that even approved of the torture. He's an anti-torture advocate and being employed by the CIA. That didn't go very well with the CIA because they are charging him of treason and going against treason and going against the Identity Protection Act. Okay. And treason, 3 counts of treason. Okay, now keep in mind that the CIA doesn't talk about torture. They do not use torture. They used enhanced interrogation techniques. That's what they use, not torture.
Enhanced chemotherapy.
Right, the same thing.
And you were the whistleblower against that, so now you're guilty of treason.
Right. Treason to the AMA instead of, I don't know, the government too. Who knows? I don't know. But anyway, so since I am not that, do not have really an insight of what the CIA does, but our friend Barbara Hartwell does, so I'm going to let her take over and discuss the enhanced interrogation technique in similar cases to Kiriakou and everything else. So, okay, Barbara, it's your turn.
Okay, good afternoon, Dr. Carpenter and Randy.
Yeah.
Hey,
first, I need to say something about torture. I mean, I did watch an interview with John Kiriakou, and he seems to me like a very sincere, stand-up guy. He was trying to do the right thing. He was just telling the truth. All right, but regarding torture, all of these agencies, CIA is notorious for this. But all of these, government agencies that operate covertly, they all use torture, and they always have to have some kind of Orwellian doublespeak, enhanced interrogation techniques, and they would apply that to waterboarding, and they also use forms of electromagnetic torture, where they would attach these electrode, whatever. I'm not a technical expert, but I know about the technology. I know
alligator clips
to the testicles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
nipples.
I mean,
testicles, nipples.
This is disgusting. And I think
electricity. I also heard that they use sleep deprivation.
Yeah, they use sleep deprivation. That's a major one, and they use extra low frequency. They have all kinds of.
They also, I read, I don't know what they call it. I can't remember right now what they call it, but basically they freeze the person. They put him naked in a room at 50-degree temperature, and then they throw cold water at them.
Yeah, and they also use benzene, like a gas. They'll send a gas into a cell where somebody's being held, which makes the person violently ill. They have all kinds of horrendous.
Okay, and then they criticize the Nazi?
Yeah. Well, remember.
Where do you think they got it?
Yeah.
You see, here's the thing that we all know, or at least anybody in the know who's done the research or has been there or who has direct knowledge, we all know that the core of CIA in 1947 was formed by Nazis that were brought here by the U.S. government. They were just, they were brought over here. Those were the people who formed the core of CIA. And, of course, the MK-Ultra operation, which is also a torture operation where they got children. And the same experimentation was going on in the Nazi concentration camps and the death camps. Joseph Mengele, the Angel of Death, Sidney Gottlieb, and on it goes. I mean, these chemo. Doctors. Yes, these were called the Nazi doctors. Okay?
Yes. Because they were doing medical research.
Exactly. But we have to look at the mentality behind such atrocities. It's the mentality that anybody could torture people. I can tell you that many years ago, this was sometime during the 80s, and I was still inside at the time, but I worked for Amnesty International. You see, there's all kinds of connections that people don't necessarily understand. You can be inside something like CIA, and you can still be a decent person. Okay, there are good people, there are decent people, which I believe to be true of John Kiriakou, because he did come forward. He spoke out against the torture. But in the 80s, I was a press representative for Amnesty International. And basically, Amnesty International deals with prisoners that are being held maybe without a charge, that some of them are being tortured. They're being held. They're not charged with necessarily with a crime. They're just being held there. Okay? So it's the same starting to happen in this country now with the NDAA, or if you look at the Guantanamo Bay, they've got all kinds of people. They just drag somebody off the street and you're in there. Okay? You don't have any legal counsel and there's virtually no way to get out. Okay? So, but anyway, getting back to this Amnesty International, the protocol was that you did not, if you had to represent, or we had to represent in the cases that we took, we had to represent somebody in a foreign prison or a foreign despot that was holding or torturing people. You couldn't apply for somebody in your own country. That's why, in other words, that was the way it was done. So you couldn't say, you couldn't go to an American chapter of Amnesty International and say, I want my uncle or my aunt or my sister, my brother being held at this jail in Tennessee or something. No, you can't do that. It has to be from another country. Okay. But the biggest thing why I believed in Amnesty International and why I joined was because I am against torture. If you look at even the bumper stickers that Amnesty International uses, it's a candle. It's a flame of candle, and it's surrounded by barbed wire.
Right.
It's like, it's like bringing light into the darkness. And so, yeah, even though every organization, including Amnesty International, is infiltrated. So we can't say, oh, everybody is so pure, but I still believe, and I know that at least the cases that I worked on, there were prisoners released. There were prisoners released as a result of our efforts. And mostly it was letter writing campaigns to the despot.
Okay.
To the foreign despot. Okay, but your honorable worthiness. Or we had to, I was choking when I had to write this.
But how's that got to do with anything?
Yeah. It has to do with torture. It has to do with...
Right, I know, but it's not has to do with the situation in the U.S. now, though.
Well, I'm looking at it from the broader picture, is that people worldwide should be protesting against torture, and they're doing it in this country. And it's not something that people in the general public are even aware of. And the fact that they will say, oh, enhanced interrogation techniques. That's nonsense. It's torture. Okay?
But the real... We got a break coming up?
Break time.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
break.
Okay. All right, we'll pick up on the other side.
After the uprising.
Free speech guaranteed. You're listening to the Orion Talk Radio Network.
You can trust me. I can help you. You can trust me.
Okay, so we're back from the break, and because of the break music was talking about, psychiatrist, that reminded us about the...
Oh, it's not my mother. It's 15 years of psychotherapy. That's why I'm all messed up.
Right. But we are talking, Barbara can also talk about this is not just physical torture. There is also psychological torture that is used. So she can discuss that with you.
Yes, Dr. Carpenter, we should bring this around back down to the COINTELPRO and the campaign to neutralize a target. Most of the torture, it is torture. There's just no doubt, okay, that's used against a target is not of a physical nature. It's mostly in these operations. It's psychological torture. They use terrorism. There is no other word that I can use. It's terror tactics, okay, to terrorize and attempt to intimidate the target. One way that you can, or at least they can have done with certain people, that they can silence somebody, okay? Now, again, let me just bring up briefly that my friend again, Gerald Sosby, that was, in the FBI, and he was exactly the same kind of campaign that's being used against you was being and is continuing all these years against him. I mean, at first, when he was inside, all he did the same thing that basically similar to what John Kiriakou did. He took an oath to uphold the Constitution. We all took that oath, and some of us took it seriously, as apparently John Kiriakou did, okay?
That's what he said. I'm upholding... yeah.
That's right. And so anyway, Gerald Sosby, when he saw what they call, again, another euphemism, irregularities, they call it. It was really crimes committed by other FBI agents and violations of citizens' constitutionally protected rights, which are actually God-given rights, okay? And instead of going along to get along, I'm not going to go along, he continually reported the situation that was happening. And what did he get for his efforts to do the right thing? They drove him out. They forced him to retire out of the FBI with the threat that he would be incarcerated in a mental institution, okay? So this is the kind of tactics that we're dealing here. They'll threaten to incarcerate. They'll terrorize and torture mentally. And the torture goes on, okay? And in his case, he's still being tortured on a regular daily basis with electromagnetic directed energy weapons. He has the libel campaign that we all know. We all have that, okay? The big libel campaign on the internet to try to discredit him. And he's still standing there. I don't know. It's amazing to me, the courage of a person that can keep.
Well, and in fact, one of the things that Kiriakou said, talking about terror campaign, he said that ever since in 2007 had an interview exposing what was going on, he has been audited by the IRS every single year.
Of course. You see, these people, all these agencies have a web of connecting nodes, as I like to look at it. It's a huge web, and there's nodes on the web. So if you fall afoul of somebody because you're not going along with what they want you to do, okay, because you're telling the truth or standing up to do the right thing, they will immediately get everybody that they can from other agencies to harass you, to persecute you, or to try to prosecute you in any way that they can get away with. And that's exactly what they do. It's exactly what they're doing to you, Dr. Carpenter. Yeah. And I have investigated numerous cases over a period of many years of people that were targeted, and it's called political persecution. I mean, it's as old as the hills. It's been around forever.
And but this is not Russia, so there is no justification.
It's not, but it's turning into a Soviet type of country, and the tactics are certainly similar to those used by KGB or
the Nazis.
The Nazis. It's all part of the same fabric.
Yeah, if you're a dissident and you disagree, then you are a public enemy and you have to be treated like if you were mafia.
Yes, and again, let's bring up the real issue here, which is that they scapegoat the whistleblower.
Yeah.
The whistleblower, the truth teller, the person who cares, the person who's a patriot, a real patriot, the person who defends the rule of law under the Constitution. That's the person that gets persecuted. Do the criminals get persecuted? No. The criminals are rewarded with blood money.
Yeah, and the people that are reporting what's going on, the first thing they do to them, throw them in a situation where they have no money. They cannot get a job. They cannot do anything. That's what happened to me as a defense whistleblower. Okay, that's what happened to me. I reported the fact that the MX missile was a phony, was a farce. It would never work because they just suck up money, tax money, and they produce nothing at all.
Well, see, that's something that a lot of people don't know about your case, Dr. Carpenter, and I think it's important that we bring that up, that you are a defense industry whistleblower, okay? And that's, in my opinion, given what I know about your case, that's when they probably set their sights on you and their crosshairs.
Yeah, but they figured they wiped me out of the defense industry, so I was no longer a problem because they blacklisted me. I couldn't find work anywhere. But the thing is that I was reporting to the FBI and the Office of Special Investigation. I reported because it was a NASA contract, and defense contract. I reported it was connected with the Air Force. So you go to the Office of Special Investigation. And I reported what was going on. They were faking the test results. They had nothing in place. That thing would have never worked because they were using substandard equipment. They were not testing it. It was not firing. It would not have fired, but it could have blown up in the silo, or it could have blown up on the whatever equipment they used to transport it, not the enemy. So
and you reported it because you care about people's lives, because you care about doing
well, my job was head of reliability engineer. I had to report that. I mean, that's a moral stand there. You have to report that. I cannot be responsible for the death of people in our own country trying to use
It's a moral imperative, Dr. Carpenter.
Yes.
For the person with a conscience.
And I was thrown out of Martin Marietta as a traitor, thrown out by security, as a threat to national security, as a traitor. I was thrown out, ended up with no income of any kind, and I have a family to support. Nothing left. And I had to climb out of desperation, of being homeless. I had to climb out of that to do something. And out of that tragedy came the project I've been working for years and years now, the one that saves the life of patients with cancer. That's what, out of that tragedy, this came out. And of course, that's even worse to them.
Yes, Dr. Carpenter. And, you know, we were talking about earlier the John Kiriakou.
Yeah.
And the national, I think it's called the National Identities Protection Act, if I'm not mistaken. But
protection.
Yes. But there's other cases of the very similar cases along these lines. And one of the cases I should bring up is the Valerie Plame Wilson, okay, where her identity, she was a covert CIA operative, and her husband was Joe Wilson. I think he was a former diplomat. But anyway, as I understand the story, at some point in around 2003, I believe, a reporter, a journalist, somehow wrote an article, I think it was for the New York Times, and somehow certain things were exposed, okay? And then you dig deeper. We have a break. Okay. All right. On the other side.
We heard it.
Yeah, we heard it. That's good. Okay.
Okay, we're back. And what were we saying just before the break?
I was talking about the Valerie Plame.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
And just basically, the reason I find this important is because I find it to be a very similar in certain ways of
Exactly.
things that happen to you, things that have happened to me. Well, just to be brief, I think what happened is that, well, they exposed her identity. And there were various, other people that were accused of exposing the identity. I'm not even going to go into all those details right now, except for the fact that her identity was exposed as a covert CIA operative.
Which puts her life in danger.
Yeah, and it did, yes. And plus, then her husband, that was Joe Wilson, was at some point prior to this tasked by CIA with going, I think, investigating the claims of the weapons of mass destruction. If they had yellow cake, from Niger that was supposed to be sold to Saddam Hussein, which they were using. In other words, the Bush administration, Bush and Cheney, were lying, using a pretext, they have weapons of mass destruction. Why? To invade Iraq. And that was an invasion. It was not a war. There was no congressional declaration of war. It was completely action other than war, which Bush perpetrated in Iraq. So, in any case...
Actually, Bush was an idiot. They just people that were moving his strings did, and he was the front team.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, he's an idiot. But the point that I'm trying to make is that Valerie Plame's husband, Joe Wilson, did the investigation. And as I understand it, it was on behalf that he was acting in this capacity as a CIA asset. He was not a CIA agent like his wife, but he was acting as an asset in this case, and he came back and told the truth. No, he investigated. I believe his wife had the same information. They investigated, and he said he reported back to the people in Washington, no, this is not true. There are no weapons of mass destruction. So I believe it was a retaliatory action, and I believe the person responsible was Dick Cheney. That's my opinion. Okay, but anyway, her identity as a CIA agent was exposed, covert operations. As a result, I don't know how many, I don't remember, but there were a number of CIA agents that were a part of her team that were killed. Okay, they were in place somewhere else, and they were killed as a result of this. Then, of course, Valerie Plame was made into a scapegoat. And I remember the movie because I saw the movie a few years ago. It was called Fair Game. I believe it was based on a book. And in any case, they started persecuting Valerie Plame. And I remember a couple of scenes from the movie, which were based on the real testimony of Valerie Plame, where she said, oh, my God, she was really upset, and she was crying, and she said, they've posted my private address of my house on the Internet. They've posted photos of my house on the Internet. That's exactly what they did to me. They posted photos of my house, plus the address, on the Internet, and they solicited crimes against me. They solicited other criminals to come and vandalize my property and steal, and they did exactly
that's the same Michelle Woven say, go demonstrate, go shoot him, close him down. The same thing.
And the fact that she contacted your neighbors who
Right.
harassed you right in your own
neighbors. Yeah.
neighborhood. Yes, it's exactly fit
The same thing.
the pattern. And the reason I bring up this, I have another case too, but we can go into that a little bit later maybe. But the reason I bring up this Valerie Plame case, because once again, here's a couple of decent people. They were telling the truth. They reported, they were asked to investigate, or he did the investigation, and he came back with the truth. Not going along with the program to implement some kind of a false invasion of Iraq. Okay? So what happens? Those people, again, the whistleblower is scapegoated and persecuted. And this is how it always happens, because these people who run the government are there's no other word, evildoers. They are not honest. They have no integrity, and they're just going to do things the way that they want to do it. And if you stand in their way, or you're there, no, I'm not going to take this, not on my watch, you will be persecuted.
I know. And you have to remind one thing. The CIA is a spy agency. You do not spy on your own citizen. This is to spy on the enemy, not your own citizen.
You're exactly right, Dr. Carpenter. But, of course, they had many, many operations, which I can only categorize as illegal domestic covert operations. I was involved in those illegal domestic covert operations and also in foreign operations. But CIA is not authorized. They're not supposed to be to do things on the ground of these United States. They're not, and they do it anyway.
Yeah, well, it's just the same with FDA. You're not a police organization. And now, they have a section of FDA that was introduced during this administration, by the way. It's called criminal investigation. The FDA, Food and Drug Administration, has a criminal investigation section. Not only that, what do they do? Like in the case of Jerry Bain, in his resume, he has a CIA training. So what the hell is he doing with FDA?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it's just like the IRS. That was the big thing this year that I kept hearing all the time about the IRS. Hiring Homeland Security agents and ordering so many millions of hollow point rounds for the IRS.
I mean, what does that have to do with anything?
But they all have, most of these agencies, or many of the agencies, have something called a CID, which is Criminal Investigation Division, or internal, like, for instance, in the police, it's internal affairs. I was actually, in the way distant past, I actually was involved in things with police internal affairs in connection with the other situation with CIA. Okay, but they all have some kind of, it's supposed to be something that protects the agency itself from internal corruption.
Well, obviously it does not.
But it doesn't. It doesn't.
It protects the agency from whistleblowers.
Right,
Yeah.
being exposed.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Being exposed.
that's what he's doing.
Because let's bring it up again. Any person who works for the government in various capacities, official capacities, okay, they do take an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And in many cases, the enemies are not foreign, but they are domestic. So any person with integrity who actually honors their oath will say, I know of a case where there's a domestic enemy right here in our midst, and it is your duty to report that and stand up against it.
It's a constitutional obligation.
Yes, it is. And it's a moral imperative.
Yes, and you must not be stopped from telling the truth.
Well,
saying something that you feel strongly about it. No, instead, if it doesn't go with the plan of the government, then you're going to be silenced. Okay?
Well,
go ahead.
One thing I want to mention here, Dr. Carpenter, and I know this applies to CIA, it applies certainly to FBI, and probably other agencies and bureaus of the government, but I do know that it's a general rule, and it's something I've discussed on numerous occasions with my friend Gerald Sosby that came out of the FBI, and here it is. If you are employed by these people, if you work for them, they think, they are so arrogant, they think they own you. And
right.
if you do not step into line and follow orders. Oh, I was only following orders. That's the problem. No, I don't follow orders. I know many other people, any decent person, any person with a conscience like you, Dr. Carpenter, You're not going to follow orders if it means you're placing people's lives in danger, if it means that people are being persecuted.
What do you mean follow orders? I'm a private citizen. I have the right to speak what I see if I feel it's wrong.
And so do we all, Dr. Carpenter.
Right. Because we're not a Bolshevik state.
No.
We are not supposed to be.
But that's where it's
supposed
heading.
to be.
That's where it's heading. And
because they're ignoring the Constitution, that's why.
Of course. But the other case that I wanted to bring up, and I don't know if we want to do this now or if you had something else you wanted to.
We're about to hit the end of the first hour, though.
Okay, so on the other side, we'll pick it up. I have another case I'd like to talk about.
Okay, that's good. And I'd just like to point out how... Is that a break starting already? No. But anyway, yeah, it is. It is.
It's on the way.
Thought I heard the voices of the... Well, I don't know. I never know when. Okay. But anyway, the end of the first hour is coming, and we are just going to continue on the second hour, and we want to show how everything is just the same, no matter what field is involved, the medicine, of government, or espionage.
I think we discussed during the break that it would be good for you to bring up some other issues before I go into the third case that I wanted to discuss.
The issue here that I was trying to present is, if you pay attention of the things that have been going on recently, the Aaron Schwartz case and the case of Kyriakou, and at the bottom of Lodar, my case, okay? It's all a form of persecution using the same method for everybody to eliminate dissidents, people that can expose things they don't want the public to know, which is against our Constitution. We cannot be silenced. If we have something to say, why shouldn't we stand up and say it? First Amendment, okay? And also what I am trying to say is, because it concerns everybody, it doesn't concern these isolated individuals that are being mentally tortured. No, and they are being harassed and they are trying to be pushed outside society. It's not just that. It affects everybody. It will affect the freedom of everybody. That's why I'm saying, please contact your state representative, contact anybody you can possibly think of in politics and push and say, request to set Kyriakou free. He's a whistleblower. He should know. Oh, CIA comments, those are excuses. Let him out. Let him free. It's too late to do anything for Aaron Schwartz because the situation was kept hush. Nobody knew what was going on till it was too late. So with Kyriakou, we know, please, do something. He needs to be let out. Public outrage should achieve that. Try it. Do it. And the same is happening.
Carpenter, with Kyriakou, when I listened to the interview, he was there. He's got 5 children, okay? He's got 5 children. He was sentenced to 30 months. That's 2.5 years.
His family is going to starve, but
his family is going to suffer horribly. He was talking about how his children were crying, but they stood up for him, and we need to stand up for him and anybody like him too.
Yeah, but my point is, even if he didn't have any kids, that's not the point.
Yeah,
it is abusing his right. Yeah,
no,
and the kids is worse. But
he's innocent. He's innocent. He's
not only is innocent, he's also was trying to help the public realize what is going on, because this is against
torture. He's a whistleblower. He's a hero.
He's not a criminal. He's trying to make people aware of what our government is doing so they could rise, because it is our government. It should follow what we want, not what they want to do. It is for the people, by the people.
Dr. Carpenter, the same is true of you, that you have stood up for the right thing. You have developed something that could stop the suffering of many millions of people, including anyone listening to this program, a loved one that you have or yourself. It could stop your suffering in the future, and it's an outrage that they are persecuting people telling the truth and who are trying to present scientific evidence or testimonials, evidence of what is happening and how everything is being oppressed. People are being oppressed and tortured psychologically, physically.
it's also, okay, cancer treatment is a physical torture. Standard care in cancer is torture. You have to face that reality. It's not science. It's nothing that helps people. It's nothing more than torture. And that's why I'm exposing and I say it doesn't have to be, because it's no way out in the future, the solution. The solution is here. So what? Oh, but you're an obscure person. So how? You're not a university. How could you have anything? Because I did independent research. I wasn't paid by anybody. I didn't have to please anybody. I just have to find what is really the truth and what is happening. And the reality is that cancer can easily be stopped without suffering, without mutilation, without fear of metastasis. It can be stopped. That's it. End of the story. In a few days, and that's the end of it. And of course, I have to be silenced. I have to be tormented. I have to be pushed out of society. And now I have been accused of actually committing a crime of wire fraud and mail fraud, because I send information and information packets. I guess they didn't say why, but that's what I assume is that the website and the info packet that I send to people explaining how this works. There is plenty of scientific evidence in addition to what certain universities are doing after my patent was published.
Well, that's right, Dr. Carpenter. And also, I think people need to be aware that there's a petition. And I think Randy last time told us where the people can sign that petition.
It's on every one of Dr. Carpenter's web pages. You can go to themedicalconspiracy.com. You can go to lasmedinc.com. You can go to wordpress.themedicalconspiracy.com. And it's on Facebook too. It's on Facebook.
I have all those links on my website today. I posted it yesterday about. Also, we should let the listeners know that anybody that wants to listen on February 8th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah, Dr. Carpenter is going to be on Michael Vera's program. It's called Late Night in the Midlands. He's got a pretty big audience, and he's a good friend of mine, too. And so I'm hoping everybody will go to my website. You can see the link for Late Night in the Midlands. And please tune in, because I believe the program lasts for, 3 hours. I don't know how Dr. Carpenter probably...
Is that on Blog Talk Radio?
Yes.
Okay, so they could also go to Blog Talk Radio and look up Michael Vera. And
yeah, you can.
Bring it up.
You can. But
I'm going to come in at 9:30 Eastern Time.
So that means
starts at 9.
Yeah. He starts at 9. He usually does news from 9 to 9:30 and other, things. And then you'll be on at 9:30. And I think the program runs to midnight. I've been on the program several times.
I have no idea, but that's what is scheduled. But what I'm saying,
tell you, Michael is a great guy. He's like us, meaning that he stands for the truth.
Yeah.
And I hope everybody will tune in and listen to it.
And what I am trying to say is, yes, by bugging your state representative, anybody that you might know in the government, yes, and that can do something and push something, yes, you think, oh, well, it's just going to help me. No, it's not going to help me. It's going to stop him from persecuting me, persecuting even more than they've already done. But it's really about the freedom of choice. You can choose to get the treatment you want. You don't have to accept standard care, which is not standard care, standard way of terminate your existence. That's what it is.
Well, exactly, Dr. Carpenter. And I really need to bring up again the fact that if we don't, we the people, and we the people is not a collective. We the people are individuals. We, the people, are made up of individuals who have God-given rights. And if we do not stand up for others who are being persecuted, we are the ones who will lose. We are the ones who will suffer even more, because we have to stand up for each other.
And just like in the case of Kyriakou, he exposed what's going on, because the idea here is today, supposedly they're using torture, horrible things, with foreigners that are supposedly hurting our country. What is to tell you that is not going to happen to everyday citizens for one excuse?
It's already happening. They already have drone strikes. How many people have been killed, including children? by the drone strikes in foreign countries. You think it's not happening here? They're here.
Okay, but the drone use is only intended to protect our forces, so you do not have to lose pilots, okay? But the point is, how are they using it? It's not the drone in itself. This is like
abused.
Right. It's just like a gun. The gun is guilty. A gun is not guilty. It's the use that people make of that. It's not the gun in itself. It's the same thing over and over again. It's how it is used.
It's the mentality. And it's the evildoers who are abusing power and abusing technology to harm innocent people, including children. That's what I'm saying.
Instead of using technology. Okay, we got a break. We'll come back on that.
Right.
Well, we're working on it anyway, fighting like hell. Anyway, so what I was saying before this last break, I was saying if things like what happened to Aaron Schwartz or what's happening to Kyriako, what's happening to me, if we allow these things to go on, they are only going to increase in number, and the government is going to go on and do it to more and more people so they can get away with what they're doing. We have to fight back. And the first thing is informing people in time of what's going on, first of all. Now, I wish we had known about Kyriako earlier so we could have, people could have complained and tried to stop a verdict against him. But just do something, fight back, try to get the public attention, try to spread the word, because the more people know about it, the more people complain. You are embarrassing the authority that are pushing this. And that's the whole point, embarrass them to death of what they are doing so they will have to stop.
Well, they should be ashamed, Dr. Carpenter.
Yeah, but they have no shame.
They don't have any shame. And I think there was another thing that you were talking about, the free speech about science. Did you want to...
You see, I have talked about in the past that like Diamond Food was attacked. What they were saying about walnut being good for your heart and instead of fish oil that has the same better properties that can help you. And FDA made them take it down. Otherwise, they would have been, I don't know, fined, arrested, who knows. And they buckled, but they started. I call that a walnut gate case. You know?
Yeah, because they tried to make walnuts a drug.
Yeah, they said it is a drug. If you're saying that has this property, then it becomes a drug. While a British dictionary on a definition of drug says it has to be known food. So if it is food, you cannot define it as a drug.
No, you can't. It's part of God's creation, like all the herbs.
Well, unfortunately, God created poison too, but I mean, B17 in an apricot pit.
But people know what is poison and what is not.
Right. And how could walnut be poison? No, you cannot say this because FDA has declared the drug. As I said before in the other case, FDA declared anything a drug when it's convenient to some drug company. And
cherries,
they can stop.
Right? Remember when they said cherries had
antioxidant? No, they cannot claim that. Otherwise, they're going to get arrested. See, we need to put a stop to this. And now, Diamond Food pushed this legislation, free speech about science, trying to protect what they were trying to say. And it is called Free Speech About Science Act of 2011, and the number is HR 1364. But my point is, why should we even have a legislation on that? Science in science, this is not the 1700 and the Catholic Church going after Galileo. You cannot be forbidden from telling facts about science and be shut up by an agency like FDA. And now what they're saying is this act is now stopping FDA and the FTC to go after people that are providing misleading information or false and unsubstantiated claims. And basically what they're trying to tag on me is the fact that I provide misinformation, false and misleading claims. I guess that's what they're trying to do. I don't know, because they have not yet answered my request of getting what basis do they have for trying to put these charges against me. On what basis? On what evidence? What? Okay, but I assume that's what they're trying to prove. Okay, well, if you're talking about science and you're talking about scientific evidence, that's not possible. They cannot come after me for that. I am discussing science. I am not Galileo in the 1700s. And it is a well-known fact that medicine has been fighting changes forever.
Well, of course, Dr. Carpenter, and also, I mean, even something like organic produce, okay? You know, to try to get away from this...
Organic milk is a crime.
Yeah, Monsanto and genetically modified organisms.
Those are fine, right? Those are fine, but organic...
But nobody knows. The public doesn't know what's in them. Look, at any possible time that I can, because I have no money. They've driven me into extreme poverty, too. But any time I can, I buy organic produce. It's just common sense. It's common sense that there's no pesticides and chemicals and genetic modified crap. Okay, so
I want to pay the attention to people, bring the attention to people, because I am sure it's not just me that has noticed that. String beans, okay, whether you buy the pack at Sam's or some other grocery store where they tell you it's you can microwave it or boil it in the bag and cook it. Whether it is that or it is frozen, there is a very strange taste to it. And when you cook it, there is something chemical smell coming up. I never smelled that before. And it's just in recent time, just a few months, that's happening. I wonder how many other people have noticed that. It's a very strange smell. That is not normal. And they cook weird. And they have a strange taste. What are they doing to string beans? Okay, something is definitely going on. And it is allowed. That is fine. But you cannot eat cherries. You cannot take the claim that are antioxidant. You cannot have... Now, personally, I really don't like raw milk, okay? I don't have anything against pasteurization. I don't like raw milk. But that's my personal choice. You can have another one and you're perfectly free to go after what you want, because it is your body and it is your life, okay?
That's right.
Now, the string beans, obviously something is wrong with them. You got to pay attention to it, because I don't know what's going on. And not everything, but certain things are really strange. And something strange, and I know they have been using genetically modified strawberries forever. And if you notice now, the strawberries are never really ripe. I don't know what's the problem with them.
Well, I've noticed that, Dr. Carpenter. You know, I normally, if I'm able to, I'll go to the health food store and I'll get like just organic produce, whatever they have. But if you go to the supermarket and you buy a tomato, like I can remember from many years back when there would be a tomato from a garden and it was real. You know, it was just like, it had a sweet taste and it was firm and juicy. And now you go to a supermarket.
And they're mushy.
And they're mushy and pulpy. They have no taste at all.
What you need to do is buy the Roma tomato, because those are the least messed up. The other tomatoes are a mess. But and also be careful with string beans. I mean, this is disgusting. What is going on? And they're trying to silence people that want to make a change.
But just talking about the facts.
Yeah. They're just exposing what is going on. And it's the same that I'm exposing about cancer treatment. They intentionally, with what they do, they intentionally cause metastasis. They really don't naturally occur unless you're a really extreme advanced and extreme messy case. But
and also, Dr. Carpenter, there's like studies that have been conducted in certain cultures where nobody ever got cancer. And why? Because there were no drugs. Right. There were no unnatural chemicals in the food.
But as soon as those people immigrate to the U.S., they develop cancer.
Of course. That's right. That's my whole point.
Yeah. So it is what we do here that causes...
It's a toxic culture. And here comes the music. Okay, the music.
Break. Yeah.
All right, so we'll get back after the break. All right.
I need to get some more water, okay?
Free speech guaranteed. You're listening to the Orion Talk Radio Network.
By the way, the laser beam doesn't hit, okay? Doesn't. But okay, so Barbara wanted to talk about another example of government CIA abuses that she knows of. So I'm going to hand the microphone to her.
Okay, Dr. Carpenter, this case is the case of Gene Chip Tatum, codename Pegasus, okay? Now, I first met Chip Tatum in 1997. It turned out we were both speakers at the same conference. It was in Denver, Colorado. And, you know, we were all there. A lot of the people that were speaking there were whistleblowers, including Chip Tatum. And his story was that he was convicted of, quote, treason. Okay? He was CIA 25 years, just like me. Actually, he was exactly the same age as I am. I do believe he has passed away now. That's what I can find out. But anyway, so he was there at the conference, and after that, I ended up. Well, he invited me to speak with him. They had seminars that were sort of separate from the lectures. And then I met him also at other subsequent conferences. And basically what happened was that he found out inadvertently, I mean, he did not know he was even involved in some of these things. But he found out that CIA was involved in running drugs. And he had information about the Mena, Arkansas with Bill Clinton, that whole debacle that happened there.
Roger.
And so he was a pilot at the time, a helicopter pilot, and he taped some conversations that nobody knew. When he started to see what was really going on, he taped some conversations that were going on as sort of an insurance policy for himself. He didn't want to be involved when he saw some of what was going on. And eventually, again, he turned into a whistleblower after he did 2 years in Club Fed, they call it, federal prison, for, quote, treason, okay? And that's where I met him first, at the lecture circuit. And again, here was
why.
The reason why, because let me tell you, let me go back in history a little bit. He was tasked by George Bush Sr., who was one of his CIA handlers.
Right.
In the past. He was tasked with assassinating Ross Perot. I lost the document because he had given me a document. He gave me a copy of the original document signed by George Bush. Some of these people broke into my home way back. We're going back to like somewhere in the late 90s. They broke in and stole a bunch of my documents that I had been given by Chip Tatum and others, and my own documents that I had. But anyway, there were other copies floating around, and I got one. And it's actually posted on my website. And Chip Tatum said, no, I will not assassinate an American citizen. I will not. Okay? And that's when all the trouble started. He refused. See, he refused. Not to say he had not. Yes, he publicly admitted that he had done other assassinations. They were, foreign type things, okay? But he drew the line. I'm not condoning, by the way. I'm not condoning assassinations. I'm just telling you the story. But my point is that when all this started happening, and then they targeted him while he was still inside, just like they did with Gerald Sosby, just like they did with me and others. They targeted him while he was still in there because he had enough. He wasn't going to continue to go along with the program. So when he got out of prison, then he went on the lecture circuit. He went public, and he's made a number of videos. Anybody can type in Chip Tatum to a search engine or a code name or Operation Pegasus, and you can actually see him talking. There's actually a video of me with him that was made in, I think, 1998, and that's the one with Ted Gunderson. Ding, ding, Ted Gunderson. Okay, that was from 1998. Okay, and we had done a seminar. It was called Insider Secrets of Government Corruption. And the video was so incendiary that the TV station, Chicago Health Television, never ran it. They were prevented from running it because we were talking about assassinations and black operations and just the horrors of the things that go on. And if anybody in there stands up and says, I had enough, I'm through now, I'm not a part of this, I refuse to be a part of it, they'll come after you. And to my knowledge, Chip Tatum was assassinated. The last time I saw him was in 1998. Yes, 1998. I was at a conference with him in Daytona Beach, Florida. And the last thing he ever said to me, he told me he had left, he was on his way out to leave the country. And he said, you need to get out. He said, they're going to kill you. And I said, well, then they'll kill me. Let them take their best shot. And I'm still here. I'm still here, and he's not. I believe they assassinated him because nobody's heard from him in at least 5 or 6 years. But my point is, if you care, if you try, if you stand up for the right thing, they will come after you. And you see, to me, it doesn't really, I'm willing to take the risk. I've been taking the risk. I will not let them intimidate me. I don't care what they do or what they say or what they threaten. If we don't stand up for our God-given, unalienable rights, if we don't stand up for each other, then the country is down the drain.
There is no country, really, if we do allow that to happen.
Become a lawless country.
Open to control by dictatorship. That's it. There's nothing better than South American dictatorships. Nothing different.
No,
really.
There isn't. And you have to remember that CIA specifically funded and fomented all these dictatorships in South American countries and around the world so they could control. That's what they do. They foment revolutions, so that nation building, so they can, from their little offices with their little keypads and computers, so they can control the world, so they think.
Well, only if we let them, and that's what I am saying.
Exactly, that's my agreement with you, Dr. Carpenter.
If people stand up and create public outrage for what is going on, make a mess, raise a ruckus on the web, start hollering, screaming, do something, it's your rights that you're defending, not these people. Yes, you're defending these people that are being targeted, but basically you're defending your own rights because tomorrow will be you. Today.
Exactly. Dr. Carpenter, Thomas Paine said, it is the duty of every patriot to protect his country against its government. That is our function. That is our duty if we are patriots, if we want to call ourselves patriots.
Yeah, but even people that don't want to call themselves patriots because it's too much work to be a patriot. Even people.
Of course it is. Of course it is. But that's the point. The people listening to this station, I hear some of the advertisements about defending the Second Amendment. The people listening to this station, I'm sure, know better than that. They know that they have to stand up. That's why you're on this station, because it's free speech.
Right.
But we need more than this station. We need a lot more.
Yeah.
We need to create the end of the world as we know it if they don't stop this nonsense, okay? Let the roof fall, the sky fall. I mean, we cannot allow this to continue. We have to, that's defending our right and our freedom. We have to stop it. And it's not going to happen unless we are all complaining, and the voice, at least, to the people that are complaining is really loud. We cannot allow this because we're all going to be affected a little bit more. Every day we lose more and more freedom.
Everybody is already being affected.
It is, but
they don't know it. They don't know it.
Absolutely, they don't realize it. But they have to stop and take a look at what's going on. Do we have another break, a minute? Thought I heard some music.
So, yeah, we do.
Okay.
All over the place. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle.
Okay, we are back from I guess that's the last break before the end of the second hour. So, now what we were saying before the commercial and what we have been saying the last 2 hours is everybody, whether they realize it or not, is being affected by what is going on, the abuse of our rights. Everybody is being affected every single day of their lives. They just don't understand it or don't realize it. And part of it is no freedom in medical care. I mean, you have to go for the treatment that your insurance company will pay for, and I don't know what's the state, the situation on whether you have to have insurance or not. But most people choose to have insurance because they're terrified of the cost if they don't have insurance. But you have to depend on what the insurance will cover, what type of treatment you can choose that the insurance will pay for. And of course, insurance only pay for what they call standard care, which is the best way to kill you or make you suffer throughout your life until you finally can survive. So it's slavery to a medical system. So we do not have freedom in medicine, and the freedoms we have in other sections and other parts of our life, they are vanishing day by day. We cannot allow John Kiriakou to stay in prison. We cannot allow. He's a whistleblower. The government pasted some stupid charges of treason because he revealed secret information. You shouldn't use torture.
To stop torture, Dr. Carpenter. That's the whole point, that people not only they have the right, but I believe that if you're inside one of these places, CIA, FBI, or whatever it is, that you have the duty, because you took, not only because you took the oath, but a moral imperative, that you have the duty to speak out, to stop atrocities and torture.
Well, and I don't know if I said it already or not, but waterboarding was used by the Japanese during World War II, okay? And the American forces hanged Japanese soldiers that were found using waterboarding against prisoners of war. So we were against it, and we were actually quick prosecution and hang them for doing that, okay? So how come all of a sudden now is okay? Is allowed?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. If you go to CIA's official website, okay, you go to CIA's official website, and they have this idiotic, like, frequently asked questions like they have on.
Yeah.
Okay. Does the CIA participate? Do they do a Oh no, we don't do that. Okay, it's a lie. I personally know. I can't even tell you. I can't even count the number of individuals that I have known personally or known of who have been assassinated by CIA. It's just a fact. It's a fact, okay? And so everything is a cover-up. It's all a conspiracy. It's a cover-up. And nobody in these agencies almost nobody adheres to their oath. which to me is a sacred oath of honor, to defend the Constitution. They don't do it. Somebody stands up to do it. What happens? They become persecuted and a scapegoat. They go to jail, they die, or they're driven into the most horrific circumstances where they drive people to suicide, just like Aaron Swartz.
Yeah, that's what they do. And I am saying we have to stand up and do something and put the public attention, talk about it, try to present it in all way possible, beside contacting the politician and saying, you will not stand for this. You will not stand for this.
That's the purpose of your program. And it's also the purpose for Michael Vera's program, which you're going to be on. We should repeat on February 8th. That's next Friday, this coming Friday, rather. And
at 9 o'clock Central.
9:30
Eastern time.
Eastern time. And you're going to be going in a whole overview of your whole case about your treatment, what it can do for people, and what you have been through as a result of them coming after you for standing up for the truth.
And what they could have done for people if they hadn't shut you down.
How many people? I mean, I have been fighting, and I want to point this out, that I've been fighting for this treatment for 30 years now, okay? The original idea came 30 years ago, and it's taken almost 30 years ago. And it's taken all this time to bring attention to it. And what happened? The attention to it, without any proper testing, without any verification, just statement, oh, it's a lie, it's a fraud. No proof. Oh, because these people were hurt. No, they were not hurt by my treatment. It's just that they didn't believe that they were okay and just going through the healing process, and they went for chemo radiation. And then, yes, they went for standard treatment, and they were a mess. Some died. But what about all the others that are saying, no, I'm fine. It was great for me. No, they don't want to hear that. So
not only that, Dr. Carpenter, but they suppressed the evidence of the very people who testified and gave documented testimony that the treatment worked.
And there are plenty more that were not testifying, and there are plenty more. And, go back to Jeremy Bain, which is a disgusting example of what we're discussing, is an agent that does all the dirty work they tell him to do without questioning anything, okay? Forgetting the Constitution, forgetting everything.
Well, just following orders.
Yeah.
Just
what they want.
Following orders.
That's what they want. Forget the Constitution. You just follow orders. We told you to do this and you do it. Well, it's not the military. And even in the military, if you find something that is objectionable, you can find a way to oppose it. But this is not the military. What do you mean you were told to do something? And
it's the militarization of all of these different government branches, though.
Yeah, but lying, because that's what spies do anyway. They lie to get their goal. And then when somebody tells you, no, that's not true at all, I'm happy, I had a great results, and then they rule that person out or totally ignore it because he said in a threatening way to me, okay, you have all this testimonial, I want to talk to every single one of them. Well, probably not every single one of them will talk to you, but I can give you a list of names, you can contact them. You only contacted one, and that one said something you didn't want to hear, and then he stopped. See?
Well, you know what the motto, as far as I've been able to determine, of CIA, and I've actually heard people in my own family say this when I've tried to have a discussion about this. Oh, well, the truth is a lie, and the lie is the truth. I mean, this is how twisted. It's like those from the Bible, those who call evil good and good evil. There's no excuse. There's no excuse.
No, there is not. Only the fact that they are trying to achieve what they want. And see, that's what they did to Kiriakou. They said, 3 counts of treason. What treason? He's trying to preserve the image of his own country.
And he told the truth. And the saddest part to me, one of the sad things, when I heard his testimony, John Kiriakou, he actually said, I love the CIA, and I took an oath to defend the Constitution, uphold the Constitution. So obviously, in his heart, his intent was honorable.
Yeah.
His intent was honorable, and in the end, he acted on his honorable intent, and probably not realizing that he was surrounded by a pit of vipers.
And it probably started.
Give a damn.
I know, they don't. They just worry about their paycheck and their career. And the hell with everybody else. But one thing that he said was when he found out about the type of torture and what they were doing, he tried to investigate it. So they asked him if he wanted to join the group, and he said, no, I'm not interested. Okay? And I think his trouble started when he refused to join the
Dr.
group.
Carpenter, how many stories, I don't know how much time, maybe a minute or so left, but I want to say this. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard. I've had stories of people that were friends of mine that were in the military, and CIA tried to recruit. You see, people think, I'm going to go join CIA. No. They recruit. If they want you, they'll come after you. And if you say no thanks, not interested, then they will persecute you. One man, he had to go through a 6-year court case to regain his pension. He was police, LAPD, and military, former military, and in the end he won the case. But they tortured him all those years. He finally left the country. He had enough. You see, they tried to recruit him, and he said no.
And you have no freedom. See, apparently you don't have any freedom to refuse it. See, that's how the abuses keep going on.
Well, that's what, Dr. Carpenter, that's what happened to me. They got hold of me when I was a child. What chance did I have to say no? It took me many years to finally get the hell out of there and say, I don't care if you kill me. I'm out of here.
Yeah. It's just unbelievable. It's just the same thing that is happening to everybody. And even though I'm not CIA, and even though I am not involved in espionage or FBI or a military, but it's just the medical. I am trying to change what's happening, and it needs to change. So help me. Help.